you can tell what kind of a crowd you're standing in front of by the way they greet friends or by the way they greet strangers when they greet you. So let's try that again. Good evening.
Good evening.
That's more like it. You all do my crowd, boy. Thank you so much for those kind and thoughtful words. Every time I hear an introduction like that, it reminds me of a funeral I went to one time. The minister was talking about what a caring husband he was to his wife and what a loving father he was to his children, what a generous benefactor he was to the community. About 5 minutes into that eulogy, the widow nudged her daughter and said, "Would you go up there and see if that's your daddy in that casket that's talking about?" Thank you so much for that challenging introduction. In U.S. Action, we say there are 3 kinds of people. There are people that make things happen, there are people that watch things happen, and then there are people that don't know what's happening. I can't think of any place else in the world I would rather be on a Wednesday night than right here in the great state of New Hampshire. A state that I will not take for granted. They told me not to say that tonight, but I couldn't. But I'm in a room full of progressives, people who are not just content to spectate or speculate or postulate or pontificate about life, but people who are active participants in the movement for social justice and for social change. I truly believe, because you all are gathered here tonight, that our country will be stronger, our economy will be more secure, and our nation's citizens to be, and yes, our nation's immigrants will all breathe freer because of the work that the New Hampshire Citizens Alliance has done, is doing, but most importantly, what you all are getting ready to do. And because we advocates and activists are often inundated and underappreciated and undercompensated and seldom celebrated, why don't y'all celebrate yourselves tonight with a great big round of applause? That's a rock. Here in this magnificent museum at this historic time, at this historic moment in history. There are 5 things that you cannot recover in life. A stone after it is thrown, the word after it is said, the occasion after it is missed, the time after it is gone, a person after they die. And so I am truly grateful for this time to spend with old friends and new friends and friends to be. I would not have missed this occasion for the world. We are the grateful alive. And my friends, as we speak our truth, let us speak it with conviction and let us speak it with clarity, but also let us speak it with compassion for each other. And let's not waste our stones for target practice on each other. Let us save them for the Goliath and our real opponents. Against them, we will need all other rocks at our disposal. Every day, I say a prayer. I said it before I came over here. I said, "Thank you, God, for my freedom. Allow me never, ever to be any man or woman's slave, but allow me to be every man and every woman's servant." So for her unselfishness and her commitment to public service, will you all do me a favor and give the Executive Director of U.S. Action's New Hampshire affiliate and one of our country's greatest organizers, Sarah Chasen Warner. Today, on today's board call, that Sarah was elected to a seat to serve on the National U.S. Action Executive Board. Congratulations, Sarah. Congratulations, Sarah. We love us some Sarah nationally, but it's also good to know that she's well thought of locally. And I'm usually more polite than it, but I want to read this email that I got today from somebody here local, and it's about Sarah. So, Sarah doesn't know I'm going to do this. And this is bad for me because I'm not good at doing this. I'm out of my element. Hi, William. I'm not sure if you remember me, but I was president of the New Hampshire Citizens Alliance when U.S. Action was formed, and we joined in 1999 or 2000, 1999. Our paths have crossed at Take Back America conferences in D.C., and I think we were both part of a small group that met with Al Gore in the White House in late 1999. I'm back on the Alliance board, and I hope to see you tonight. Unfortunately, I had a dental emergency. Actually, I lost a front tooth, and I needed to go to the dentist late today. The upshot is that I won't be able to go this evening. I'm sure our paths will cross again these days. Steve Gorin. A final note. We are very fortunate to have Sarah Warner as our director. She, Olivia, Zink, and the other staff are doing a fabulous job. To all of the speakers and presenters who preceded me, let me thank you for giving our heads good information. Let me thank you for giving our hearts good inspiration. And thank you for giving our feet good instruction. Having me speak at an event like this is never a 50-50 proposition. I guarantee I've already received more wisdom and inspiration than I can possibly give. So with that disclaimer, let me tell you, like Jennifer Lopez told her first 3 husbands, I won't keep you long. Indulge me for a few minutes on the subject. We all do better when we all do better. As progressives, we are united in our commitment to social justice. We believe that every human being has equal dignity and equal worth. And we also believe that every human being is entitled to live a meaningful and fulfilling life. But beyond our own individual concerns, there is a common good that prioritizes our communities and our mutual well-being, and government should be used as one of the instruments to advance that common good. So as progressive activists, we are committed to pursuing that vision, not just through our words, but through our deeds as well. That's the promise of U.S. Action. And because we are committed to social justice, we organize for power. For we know that the root cause of social injustice is the inequality of power. When power is unequally distributed, it allows the few with more power to pursue their own ends at the expense and the dignity and the well-being of the few without. And so we organize for power, not to impose our will on others, but to guarantee that all men and all women, the self-evident truth declared in the Declaration of Independence of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And because we're committed to social justice, we organize for democracy. In a democracy, relationships of power should be determined by the majority will of the government. That guarantees that every one of us has an equal voice in decision-making through open debate, through diversity, and through respect for individual rights. That way, we can allow everybody to contribute to the common good. And as progressives, we also understand that this ideal of democracy must extend beyond the limits of government and to the decisions that affect our lives, including our workplaces and the global marketplaces as well. And lastly, because we are committed to social justice, we organize for change. As progressives, we seek not just to understand the world, but to change it. We do not sit and wait for history to prove us right. We have the courage to stand on the front side of history and make it right. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Too many people of goodwill have never connected bigotry with economic exploitation. They've deployed prejudice, but tolerated or ignored economic injustice." He concluded, "These two evils have a malignant kinship." Once upon a time, we lived in America that if you worked hard all your life and you played by the rules, you could get a decent wage and be able to retire comfortably. Now we're being told that times are tough and there are not enough jobs to go around. And if you're lucky enough to get a job, you should be prepared to settle for less. Well, let me just say that there's plenty of work to be done here in America. Repairing and improving our infrastructure, providing health care and human services, providing education for our children, protecting the public safety, securing America's energy future. If the private sector is unwilling or unable to create jobs, then the public sector must. The public and the private sector always. Look, 70% of the economy is consumer spending. Corporations like to say that they're the job creators because they hire people. Well, when business people have money, they might spend it to create jobs, or they might invest in gold, or they may hoard it. But it is in fact, it is the working people that are the business creators. What do businesses need? They need people to spend money buying their product or using their services. When working people have money, they spend it, creating businesses, thus creating jobs. Proposals that reduce money for working people reduce businesses. They can't pay their mortgages, they can't buy new cars, they can't buy iPads, they don't travel, they don't go out to eat. And the same is true by way of cuts in Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, state and local government spending, less money for business, less money for job creation. Creating jobs means putting money in working people's pockets, not picking them clean. America is still the richest country in the world. Our economy is 10 times big as China. We need to renew the basic contract between government and business and labor that shares America's prosperity and puts people back to work. Barack Obama, the president, has a bold new vision on jobs. And he's drawn clear battle lines. Not only did he point out how the failed conservative economics of the past won't work, he's also highlighting how the progressive policies of jobs and shared prosperity will lay out and not only fix our deficit problem, but lead to long-term economic growth. But we cannot let the president be the last word on this jobs, because his movement is a good movement, it's a good start. But if we do not build a movement that's bigger than him, then he has nowhere to go except toward the conservatives. And so we must build a progressive movement around the president that stands for three things, if you will let me say what I think it should be. Number one, good jobs for everyone in America. 3 parts. Yes, let's support the American Jobs Act. That's a good start. But let's put people back to work directly, publicly funding jobs, and let's invest in long-term job creation by promoting an economic infrastructure bank. There's only one 4-letter word that they should be using in Congress nowadays, and that's J-O-B-S. Jobs, jobs, jobs. The bigger the better. It's time to put everybody in America. How do we pay for it? 3 ways. Let us close corporate tax loopholes. 2, let us implement a tax on millionaires and billionaires. It's about time they paid their fair share. And finally, let us end this war and cut unnecessary military. We need to stop honoring our servicemen and servicewomen when they fight and die abroad, and then leave them unemployed and homeless and hopeless and scarred for life when they come home. Our veterans deserve jobs and fair wages. Our veterans deserve decent housing. Our veterans deserve rehabilitation and mental health care. Our veterans deserve more education. Yes, it's going to cost money. We're giving $2 billion a week, billion with a B, to nation build in Afghanistan. Now that Osama bin Laden is dead, let us bring our valiant men and women, our brave sons and daughters, our courageous brothers and sisters home to us, and use some of that nation-building money to rebuild this nation and put America. Good job to everybody in America. A way to pay for it. Let us also protect those programs that keep people in the middle class from slipping out. And people who are trying to get in the middle class, let's give them a boost in. That means protecting low-income programs from any cuts. That means protecting Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security from any cuts. Social Security is the most successful anti-poverty program in the history of this country. It has not added 1 copper cent to the deficit. As a matter of fact, right now today, Social Security has $2.5 trillion surplus. That's trillion with a TR. It has enough money in it right now to pay out every benefit to every beneficiary for the next 30 years. We don't need to raise the retirement age. We don't need to cut benefits. There are a lot of ways to strengthen Social Security. Let me give you one. If you want to make Social Security solid for the next 75 years, why don't you get rid of the cap on the payroll tax on income over $250,000? Lift that cap so the we're not going to let this Congress balance the budget on the backs of our seniors, our working families, our children, the sick, the disabled, the poor, the most vulnerable. That is not going to happen. We'll be damned if we let that happen. Lastly, protecting whole program, protecting Social Security and Medicare from any cuts. And finally, let's invest in our children. From early childhood education to college education. Front page of the USA Today. Student loan debt surpasses $1 trillion. Students and workers seeking retraining are borrowing extraordinary amounts of money through federal loan programs, potentially putting a huge burden on the backs of young people looking for jobs or trying to start careers. The amount of student loans taken out last year crossed the $100 billion mark for the first time, and total loans outstanding will exceed $1 trillion for the first time this year. Americans now owe more on student loans than on credit cards. Taxpayers and other lenders have little risk of losing money on these loans because unlike mortgages that were made during the real estate bubble, Congress has given the lenders, the government included, broad collection powers far greater than those of mortgage or credit card lenders. This debt cannot be shared in bankruptcy. The credit risk falls on young people who will start adult life deeper in debt, a burden that could place a drag on the economy in the future. Students who borrow too much end up delaying life cycle events such as buying a car for the economy, buying a home, economy, getting married, economy, or having children. What are we doing? What are we doing to our young people? Saddling them with all of this debt when they're least able to pay. We bail out the banks. We bail out Wall Street. If we can't have a jubilee for young people and bail them out, at least allow them to renegotiate these loans so they can be able to afford it and contribute to the economy. It's very easy. No matter what you think about Occupy Wall Street. These young people, they've captured the world's imagination. At least they got the target right. Corporations. And they got the cause right. The 1% versus the 99%. But the problem is that corporations and their corporate CEOs have too much power, they make too much money, and they wield too much political influence. And while those who are working get lower wages and higher health care costs and reduced pensions, they get bailouts and bonuses and record profits. You know, the average CEO makes 262 times as much as the average worker. The average CEO makes more money by lunchtime than the average working stiff makes all year long. So is it any wonder that income inequality is at its highest level in almost 100 years? Is it any wonder that we have 15 million people unemployed in this country? Is it any wonder that we have a record high 44 million Americans, 1 in 7, living in poverty in this country? Last year, poverty rates rose in 31 states and fell in none. Now, this economy is working pretty good for some people. The richest 1% of people in this country control 42% of the wealth. By the way, the top 10% of the people in this country own 70% of the wealth. Now, we know what to do. There's about 100 people in this room, and we prepared a banquet for 100 people, 100 plates of food. And 10 people came and took 70 plates and left 30 plates for 90 people to share. You know what we do? We would make those greedy rascals come and put some of that food back so that everybody can eat. This is America, the richest country in the world. We have enough so that everybody can eat. And contrary to what the Supreme Court said, corporations are not people, my friend, and money is not speech. Corporations who operate in America must be engaged in socially responsible conduct of the many, and not just short-sighted, short-term investments for a few rich guys. In other words, people shouldn't serve the corporations. Corporations should serve the people. Now, just tell you, you start talking like that, they're going to start calling us names. They're going to start accusing us of class warfare. They say this about us, at they low wages and cut benefits. We're the ones engaged in class warfare. They say that about us, as they lay our workers off and send our jobs overseas. They say that about us, as they wreak havoc on our economy and almost drive our country off a cliff. Well, they say we're engaged in class warfare. I got a message for them. We didn't start this fight. We didn't pick this fight. We didn't want this fight. But if it's a fight you want, it's a fight you're going to get. Knuckle up. Knuckle up. I'm not about it. I'm here to win. Our class doesn't happen by accident. It was built brick by brick. By soldiers returning home from the war, and a government that took them seriously enough, their obligation to help them with the GI Bill, with housing, education, and jobs. American businesses that hired American workers and needed a well-educated workforce. And it was built by labor unions who gave us a 40-hour work week, and ended child labor, paid vacations, and wages that were once the envy of the world. Good jobs are created when every man and every woman has the right to join together and bargain for a voice at work. The good news, there is good news. I'm not all gloom and doom. The good news is that there are more Americans who share our values than don't. You see, the only way the other side can win is if they divide us. Black against white. Immigrant against non-immigrant. Union against non-union. Straight against gay. How cruel. How cynical. How divisive. Let us recommit ourselves tonight to knitting together that inescapable garment of destiny that Dr. Martin Luther King talked about, where what affects one of us affects all of us. Because we're all a part of the same community. We all pay a price when there's injustice in that community. Yes, we are responsible for ourselves, but we're also responsible to each other. I am my brother's keeper. I am my sister's keeper. It is time to use our strength in numbers so that we can all share in the American dream. In America, your success should depend on your talent, your hard work, and your contribution to your community. When did we start rewarding this pure, unadulterated greed? Let us all come together and use all the resources at our command to rebuild and restore and reestablish America as a great nation, a country that works for all of us. We all do better when we all do better. And so, New Hampshire, this is the best time to be in the social justice movement. The Occupy Wall Street movement speaks to our goal, building majority, 99% definitely majority. And it provides us a progressive message or framework. 1% of the people control too much of the wealth. That's an economic justice message, by the way. It's a message to end income inequality. It's a message to rescue our government from this pay-to-play politics of legalized bribery. Yes. Occupying a park in Manhattan has captured America's attention. But now we here in New Hampshire must seize this moment and provide leadership in Peterborough, Nashville, Manchester, Concord. Before, during, and after the election, we must strive to build a movement based upon our common ideals and values. For lasting social change will not be made by heroes or sheroes, not by Superman or Wonder Women. Lasting social change will only be done the only way it's ever been done, when ordinary people get in motion, natural men and natural women. So I need you all to put a little extra in your ordinary, a little super in your national. Today we stand together. Tomorrow let's struggle together so that we can win together. I spent a lot of time tonight talking about corporations, but I do not believe that the wealth of this nation lies in its corporate bank accounts or in its rich mineral resources. The real wealth of America lies in the hearts of the American people. So we will rebuild and restore and reestablish America as a great nation, and we'll do it through Facebook, and we'll do it through Twitter and all of these social media. But we're also going to do it the old-fashioned way. Neighbor to neighbor, eyeball to eyeball, heart to heart. Last, I was brought up Baptist, so I closed more than one, but Sarah, this is my final. New Hampshire Citizens Alliance, keep reaching out. 30 years, you've been a shining example of how we respond to the challenges in America and in our communities. Keep shining your light. Keep shining your light and leading the way. Let us be defined by our shared values. We all do better when we all do better. There's a book I read that says, so as you have done it unto the least of these, you have also done it unto me. That book also says, so as you have not done it unto the least of these, you have not done it unto me. And so let me ask you today, not just in the social justice movement, but what have you done, New Hampshire, today, to comfort somebody when they're hurting, to alleviate somebody's suffering, to feed somebody who's hungry, to clothe somebody who's naked, to visit somebody who's sick? When you see a person who's down and out, do you mock them, judge them, scorn them, evade them? We are now being judged as a nation, and the whole world is watching us. There's a woman who lives in New York. When she first moved there, she was young, she was hot, everybody loved her, everybody wanted to be around her, everybody wanted to get that picture taken with her. But then she got old. And once she got old, people started looking at her a different way. They looked at her and began to see her as some kind of shameless beggar, mainly because she went to the same spot every day in New York with her hands stretched out, talking about, gimme, gimme, gimme. Well, maybe it's because I'm getting old. I have a lot of respect for that senior citizen woman who goes to New York City and stands in that same spot every day and says, give me, you're tired. Give me, you're poor. And give me, your huddled masses who yearn to breathe free. Now, I don't know what ship I came over here on. I don't believe it's the Mayflower, but that don't matter now. You know, we're all in the same boat now. And whatever our motivation, whether it's faith or love or intellectual conviction, or we should recommit ourselves to the fight for social and economic justice. As my friend Cornel West says, justice is merely love operating in public. To deny that our destiny is tied to the well-being of the rest of humanity is to deny the fullness of our own humanity. I learned my values in three places. I learned my values in my home, I learned my values in the church, and I learned my values in a public school system without even knowing it every day. Every day. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice, not just for the privileged few, not just for the ones with the best lobbyists, not just for the ones who are on the right side of the tracks, not just for the ones who are born with a silver spoon in their mouth, but with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, New Hampshire Citizens Alliance.